Hey everybody, what's up? It's Pete. It is actually 3:30 in the afternoon. I wanted to do a little bit of a recap on trade setups again and fully understanding reading the tape. I'm going to schedule more of these lives, and I'm probably going to make announcements and emails and that kind of stuff. So if you want to get on the email list when we send them out, I think they're kind of cool because we can have it a little more interactive than the video I do in the morning. What I wanted to talk about right now is while the market's still open, I want to recap the call we made this morning and then how that turned into some really good trading opportunities today. And specifically, there were 3 trades today, only 3 for as active as the market is, only 3 that really set up good. So if you remember, or if you want to go back and watch the video from this morning, where basically I said we're opening up much higher, and buying the higher opening because of the bearish recent price activity was not a good idea. But I did like the opportunity to buy today. So we were looking at a higher opening. I said, wait for it to pull back, look for a spot to bid, and then go to the higher time frames to determine when you should be looking to exit the position. I also said, if that does not follow through, what we ultimately want to do is we want to have a system in place that if we get long and the buying does not follow through, at what point would you consider selling short? So if you have any questions, you happen to catch this video while it's live, absolutely feel free to post them on there. If not, after the video, you can definitely do that as well. If you're new, click subscribe. That would be awesome too. So what I'm going to do now is using this new software that I have, I hope I do it right. We're going to go to the screen, and I want to briefly touch on what should be working in this market right now and this morning. 3 trades from today. The biggest one by far was not to buy a higher opening today. We literally said, wait for the pullback, got the pullback, that set up a new trade, look for the new opportunity, pulled back, and then there was no more buying opportunity. So I just want to discuss and recap what we talked about this morning while the market's still open here. So I'm going to share my screen, assuming I could use the software correctly. And yeah, so here we are. So if you remember this morning, we said we were going to open up higher, which we actually did. The futures were actually much higher. You know what? Let me actually go over to the futures to make sure that we see exactly what we're talking about. I want to make sure everything's in the video. And this is where we were this morning. So you can see we closed over here in the afternoon and rallied all up here. So when I did the video this morning, I said, do not buy the higher opening. Wait for the market to pull back, and it'll be a much better opportunity for you to get long. So now I'm going to go back into the SPY. And there was a whole bunch of reasons for that. There's reasons to buy breakouts or higher openings when you're already in bullish order flow. But buying a higher opening after move to the upside in bearish order flow is not a good trade, and that's what we're talking about today. So I'm actually going to drop down to the 5-minute chart, and we're going to look at the trade from this morning. So something I do every day, which if you are a regular viewer by this point, you will know that we are always putting the opening price in play. So this here was the opening window here. This is the 9:30 5-minute candle. So we actually got the pullback that we called this morning. And at that point, we said you were looking for either a swing low or a big red candlestick down with an inside candlestick to look for the breakout to the upside. Now, the downside to this trade is that you were actually below the opening price. So you had a little bit of the most recent price action not in sync with the last 2 days, which created the buying opportunity. However, because there was bullish movement overnight, we were okay with looking to buy today for some follow through, but not necessarily looking to get buy if we had the higher opening and pushed higher. So the thing I want to make sure that is really important there, have the guts to call the market open. Because here's what happens, and I actually talk about this quite a bit. Most people go into the day waiting to see what happens. I want you to start doing the opposite of that. If you have 10 stocks, I want you to say, this is exactly what I expect to have happen today. And if it does, I'm going to do this. And you only need 3 out of 10, 2 out of 10 to do exactly what you thought, and then they'll play itself out. Don't worry about the 7 that didn't do what you thought. Worry about the 3 that did exactly what you thought and print money on those 3. So we're going to work on that together as a group in videos. And if you have any questions, obviously drop it below the video today. So here's the point. So we waited for the pullback. Now, this absolutely here was another opportunity to get long. And actually, I got a couple of private messages and whatnot from some people in the community that they actually did look to get long here, and they asked me what they did wrong. You actually didn't do anything wrong. The only downside is that you had limited opportunity for profit because yesterday's high was right there. So there really wasn't a lot of room for profit potential. But as far as a trade where you got above the opening price, you got some confirmation intraday looking for the next move higher, the idea was solid. But if you remember what I put in this morning smart money alert, when to get long, should you get long, is just as important if you actually have a trade. So in other words, we did have a trade to consider, but it wasn't a great idea because of the resistance just above, meaning there wasn't a lot of room to go. But if there was more room to go, waiting for that to push back above the opening price, pause above the opening price, that would have been a really good trade under different circumstances. But because that's not those circumstances, that made it a lower probability trade to earn enough to justify the risk. So in this particular situation, and I'm going to go back out to the hourly chart, we had a couple of people asking, well, how did you know not to be long anymore? Well, look at the hourly candles right out of the gate. We actually were negative right out of the gate. And if you remember in yesterday's video and the day before, we discussed very strongly, you start out at one time frame and then go to the higher time frame to hold on to those trades. So right away, the higher time frames were actually getting weaker and telling you not to be looking to add to a position. And the same thing here, we actually broke out. And if you remember, I actually talked about the signals yesterday where you break through and fail, you break through and then you fail again right away. So you'd be tightening up that trailing stop. So the trades of the day to me in the afternoon, where now we zoom into the afternoon, we're clearly below the opening price. I'm not looking for a spot to bid here because we failed at the opening price multiple times. So what are we doing now? We have an inside candlestick, inside candlestick. So in our terminology, that's inside, inside down. That was the first trade. Then you actually had another swing high here with 3 failed attempts to push higher. And then ultimately we end up having one big solid push to the downside off of this inside candlestick down as well. And you could actually see the market's got another 30 minutes here to be playing itself out. So